without further ado, let's get right into this. Let's start with our prayer. Dear Lord, thank you so much for just the opportunity to have freedom of speech and the freedom of religion in this country. Please just protect those, watch over those who fight for those rights, and just make sure that this country remains free, and that the freedoms and privileges that we still have to this day remain such, Lord. Just help people to see clearly, and to just give them good insight and wisdom when they vote, so they know the right people to vote for and aren't just convinced and brainwashed to think otherwise, Lord. Give people wisdom, clarity in their votes, and make their voices heard, Lord. Help this podcast to reach people, help us to help our clients, and just give us the strength and courage and wisdom to continue this, Lord. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Hi, guys.
This has pretty much been explained.
Jonathon Daily. All right, so update on the Statute of Frauds case. As I have been talking about the last couple of weeks, we had a Statute of Frauds case, Statute of Fraud again. In Florida, if there is any agreement regarding real estate and interest in real estate that needs to be in writing or it's unenforceable, that's the Statute of Frauds essentially. The Statute of Frauds also covers loan agreements or credit agreements. So if you have an agreement with someone regarding a loan repayment, I mean, that's the whole point of, remember, an IOU, you write a little IOU on a Post-it note. That's really where the Statute of Frauds kind of comes into play there. So in this case, again, just to give a recap for those who have not been listening, a client of mine had a deed signed. They had a verbal partnership agreement in which a deed was signed. Their nephew signed a deed adding one of my clients to their property because they were helping cover maintenance and mortgage expenses. And then now they're trying to claim and sue my clients that they essentially defrauded him, lied to him to get him to add them to the deed, because they had a falling out, of course. And so now my clients rightfully and legally are trying to force him to sell the property because they can't agree, and they're tired of helping maintain the property when this person was supposed to refinance and get them off, and he can't do so. And so now he's frustrated with my clients trying to force them to sell. So that brings us to these different causes of action that have been alleged against my client of breach of contract, breach of verbal agreement, of fraudulent misrepresentation, estoppel, all these different claims that essentially all should be dismissed. And we filed a motion to dismiss using the Statute of Frauds because of these are the exact types of cases that the Statute of Frauds is meant to prevent, because it's a waste of judicial resources and it is unfair because anybody can make up anything and make up allegations when it comes to what alleged agreement there was regarding a interest in real property. And that's why the Statute of Frauds says put it in writing, so that if there is a disagreement, we can submit it to the court and we can just interpret what that agreement says. That didn't happen here, so we filed our motion to dismiss, and I have good news. The motion to dismiss was granted. As to about half of the counts, it was granted with prejudice, which means they cannot reallege those. They can amend the complaint, but they cannot reallege those causes of action. And then as to the remaining counts, it was granted without prejudice, which means they are able to amend the complaint and perhaps able to rearrange how they put the complaint together so that they can avoid another dismissal. Of course, they will do that, and we will file another motion to dismiss, and hopefully we will win that again, and then we'll win our partition action on summary judgment. So I will keep you updated what happens there. But yeah, good news there. Moving on to the juicy stuff. So we have, like I said, a lady says the N-word and gets a lot of money. Is that a headline that's supposed to get attention? You betcha.
You call him the child? Did you call the child? It is my own business. You call him? Okay, why don't you have the boss to say it right now again? Alright, that's what you say. Nobody digging to you.
A little kid just digging.
A little kid, you call him a... The little child?
What if he acts like one? He's gonna.
Are you about to hit him? You chase him here?
He took my son's stuff.
So that gives you the right to call the child, 5-year-old, the N-word.
If that's what he's gonna act.
That's
like.
what you're gonna call him.
That's what he's gonna act like.
You know, that's a hate speech. And you can be recorded for that.
I don't give.
Huh. Okay, we'll see about that, what the internet has to say about you.
So we have Shiloh Hendricks. I believe we have a story here. So on April 28th of this year, Shiloh Hendricks shows up at a park in Rochester, Minnesota. At some point, a black child, reportedly 5 years old, tried to steal something from her diaper bag. Shiloh apparently responded in anger, and as the story goes, she called the boy the N-word. A man named Sharmaik Omar, a Somalia immigrant and not the boy's father, allegedly witnessed this altercation and decided to pull out his phone. The resulting video has gone extremely viral across every major social media outlet. So the big story here is not just necessarily some lady saying the N-word, a white lady saying the N-word. We all know that's going to grab the media's attention because that's what they care about. So hey, that's what we're going to talk about because hey, these trending videos will help us get views as well because that's what it's all about, right? No. But it's a bigger issue than that at play here because what happened in this case was not just a white lady saying the N-word, but she ends up being doxxed as you would expect in today's culture. Her private information was leaked, essentially her life destroyed, and then of course she plays the victim like everyone does now. And can't really blame her. She plays the victim, asks for money, and raises an absurd amount of money, $500,000 I believe is what I last heard. Correct me if I'm wrong. I know all of the listeners out there love to do that, so correct me if I'm wrong. So she raises a bunch of money. So what's the bigger issue here? The bigger issue is why are we giving money to bad people? Why are we giving money to someone like this? Is it wrong? Is it right? And it's much more complex than just yes, it's right, or no, it's not right here in this situation. I think we have extremes that have developed because of the quote-unquote cancel culture. So the doxing of individuals like this. The lady probably made a mistake. She shouldn't have said the N-word, but does that warrant her life being destroyed? Because in today's culture, saying the N-word as a white person is essentially worse than murder. I mean, as we've seen with the Carmelo Anthony case that we've discussed, this is, basically a murder case, and we have plenty of people donating to this murder. What's going to happen when a culture it gets used to money going to bad people? Well, you're going to have the opposite effect. When someone like this, in my opinion, Shiloh Hendricks, who probably shouldn't necessarily receive this money, but you have a whole swath of people who immediately are going to donate to this person, not necessarily because they're racist and they're like, yeah, way to say the N-word, but it's a response to the cancel culture, and it's a extreme response. So we have people on the left, or we have people in this category who say it's okay to say, or it's not okay, it's never okay to say anything that could remotely be construed as prejudicial, racist, etc., and that we should dox and ruin people's lives over it. And that's going to create a response on the right, or over here in this category, which says, no, you're absolutely able to say anything, anytime, freedom of speech, no matter what, it is okay. And really, like most situations, like most social, cultural, political issues, in my opinion, the correct answer is not with either of these. It's somewhere in the middle. Because there are certain things we shouldn't say. There are certain topics that we should not be in support of. There are certain things that you have to argue is right or wrong. Should people be able to say whatever they want? Absolutely. Freedom of speech, I'm for that. But does that mean we should be donating $500,000 to someone, a white lady saying the N-word to a 5-year-old child? That is not a good look. That's not a good thing. But at the same time, I understand why it happened. Because it's a response to this extreme left. So my entire conclusion on this is let's all become reasonable again, people. The left, the people over here that are saying that you can't say anything that's remotely prejudicial, racist, you have to be extreme, PC, politically correct all the time. And then we have the extreme over here that, no, you can say F this, F that to anybody about anything, say the most racist things you want to, and nothing should be done to them. Let's be reasonable again and meet in the middle and say, okay, this is right, this is wrong. Have a take on it. Why do we need to donate hundreds of thousands of dollars to one or the other? It's not right. So let's get back to reasonableness in our society. So moving on to the next story, 12-foot tall random black lady statue in New York. Yes, there's notably a 12-foot tall bronze statue of a black woman currently on display in New York City's Times Square, titled Grounded in the Stars. This sculpture is the work of British artist Thomas J. Price and was unveiled on April 29th, 2025. It will remain on view until June 17th, 2025. That's interesting. Remain on view until June. so they're going to take it down, I guess. The statute portrays a fictional, it's not a real person, just a made-up young black woman in her casual attire, t-shirts, pants, braided hair, with her hands on her hips, in a calm, assertive expression. The Price designed the figure to resemble an every woman, aiming to challenge traditional ideas of monumentality and representation in public art. The installation has sparked significant public discourse. That's why we're talking about it. Supporters praise it for promoting inclusivity and prompting reflection on identity and representation. Critics, however, have expressed discomfort, some viewing it as a political statement. The statue's presence in Times Square, a location traditionally dominated by monuments of historical white male figures, the worst. So, you know why this happened. What are our views? I want to hear from the viewers. What is your take on this statute? It is just, because it's a fictional black woman in just everyday attire trying to change what we think as monumental, makes me think, well, that's kind of racist, is it not? There's nothing good about this fictional black woman. There's nothing that she did that accomplished something. They're just doing it to promote diversity, because the other two statues are apparently white male figures who actually did accomplish something. I don't know what these white male figures are, these statues that are there in New York in this park. So please, people that do their research and want to correct me, because I know you guys love to do that, tell me what those male figures are, and we can get an answer there. But it's almost like the left and people like this artist just want people to be racist, because it's like, what is your goal here? You're basically saying the only thing great about the statue is the fact that it's a black woman. There's nothing, she hasn't done anything amazing. She is just a standard, typical black woman. So imagine if we did that on the right. What if we put a just white male, white female, just she's awesome because of her race and her gender and her normalness. And now there's a whole other issue of, are we promoting just being ordinary? We're promoting that. There's nothing wrong with being ordinary. Ordinary people can make, the world go round. They run our economy. They do. But a statue is supposed to be a historical monument, someone who did something, accomplished something. So it's almost like trying to praise being a loser, because that's what the statue is. It's just a loser. It's a fictional character who has done nothing, looks like a pissed off woman from a Tyler Perry movie sitting at the DMV, frustrated and cussing out the customer support line. I don't know, but yeah, that's my take on that. I would love to hear from the viewers, though, what you guys think, and maybe I'm missing something. Maybe there is a absolute, some artistic value there that I'm just not seeing, and perhaps it's just over my white, straight male brain's mind. So, student loan repayments. We have a clip here on student loan repayments and the people that are just not too happy about it. But yes, as of May 5th, 2025, the U.S. Department of Education has resumed collections on defaulted federal student loans, ending a pause that began in March 2020 due to the COVID-19 pandemic. This move affects approximately 5.3 million borrowers currently in default. Key points here, collections resumed. The Department of Education restarted collections on defaulted student loans on May 5th, 2025. Key term here is defaulted, so it's not just everyone, it's on defaulted student loans, people that did have due dates, deadlines to start repaying and were not making payments. So if you need to check your plan, because if you do have student loans out there, if you're on income deferred repayment plan or any other type of repayment plan that doesn't necessarily have a due date yet, you may not be affected by this, but yeah, they're taking involuntary repayment action. Borrowers in default may face involuntary repayment actions such as wage garnishments and offset of tax refunds and Social Security benefits. So this is just another thing that the Trump administration is doing that may not necessarily make him popular with the people, but they're doing things to fix our government debt problem, to fix our governmental budget problem. We have Doge, we have tariffs, and we're forcing student loans to be repaid. Start thinking this overall collectively what's good for the country and not overall collectively what's good for me, the individual. Because I still have student loans, and I wasn't paying them because I was hoping that if they were going to actually forgive all of that, then obviously why would I be a sucker and pay off all my student loans if they're going to be forgiven? So would it have helped me personally if they'd been forgiven? Yes, but from a fundamental philosophical, standpoint, it's wrong. I knew what I was doing when I took out the loans, just as all these other people knew what they were doing, or maybe arguably they didn't, but that's not they just didn't have the brain cells, I guess, to understand that you have to repay money. And yeah, of course, people were essentially brainwashed to say you need to go to college to be successful. You need to just go to any big university, get this degree, and all of a sudden, you're automatically going to get a job that will be able to cover those loans. Well, no, you got to be able to, think about it. And there's all sorts of factors that go into it. But at the end of the day, we got to be accountable, people. There is no accountability left, it seems like. So take a listen to this clip and let me know what you think.
Big change is coming for more than 5 million people whose student loans are in default. The Education Department says it will begin collections on those loans beginning on May 5th. The move marks the end of a years-long period of leniency that began during the COVID pandemic. The involuntary collections could eventually include garnishing of wages.
All right, moving on. Next, we have EBT requirements in Georgia have changed. So as of October 1st, 2024, individuals aged 18 to 54 who are considered ABODs that must meet additional work requirements. So the ABOD is ABAWD, which stands for, if I have this, able-bodied working adults. Able-bodied working adults without dependents.
4,000 of Metro Atlantans are finding out they are no longer eligible for food stamps. The change affects Cobb, Gwinnett, and Hall counties. Channel 2 Sophia Choi is live in Cobb County. And Sophia, this involves able-bodied adults who are now required to go to work.
Able-bodied adults who have no dependents. Now, this is where people can come to enroll in the food stamps program with the Department of Family and Children Services in Cobb County. And about 3,000 Cobb County residents who get those benefits are now under new requirements. We met Kiara Thomas applying for food stamps at the Cobb County DFACS office. She's got a child, but says those who don't have dependents still need help.
I mean, not everybody can work, and it's not that easy to find a job nowadays.
About 6,000 food stamp recipients in Metro Atlanta are now required to find work or get into a job training program after getting the benefit for 3 months. Those affected are adults who have no dependents at home.
So here's the new requirements as of October 1st, 2024. So a lot of people who were on EBT are just starting to be affected by this, because when they implement changes in EBT requirements, SNAP requirements, a lot of people who were on SNAP, usually when you're on a program like that, means tested welfare program, once you're on it, but there will be about like a 6-month or longer period in which you have to eventually recertify and renew it. Yeah, this change happened back in October of last year, but a lot of people are just now seeing the effects of it because they're having to recertify. And when they come to recertify, they're now asking people to show the proof that they're engaging or attempting to get a job. And so all these people all of a sudden lost their benefits, so they weren't prepared for this and they're upset about it. So here's a little more details. So they must engage in work or approved activities for at least 80 hours per month. I don't have the details on what these approved activities are, but failure to meet these requirements limits SNAP benefits to 3 months within a 36-month period unless the individual complies or qualifies for an exemption. What are they doing here? They don't want people who are able-bodied adults without kids to just be on EBT because they can and they're happy where they're at. They're not trying to actually get a job, or they're just working 5 hours a week and not trying to actually grow beyond that, not trying to get promoted or have more hours. They're trying to prevent that because it's supposed to just be there to help supply food for people who just currently can't afford it. They're making changes, so that's good. Here are a couple exemptions. It says failure to meet these requirements limits SNAP benefits to 3 months, like I said, unless the individual complies or qualifies for an exemption. Here are the exemptions. Exemptions from these requirements may apply to individuals who are physically or mentally unfit for employment. Arguably, that's quite a few people, but we won't have to get into that. Individuals who are pregnant, caring for a child under 18 in their household, so that would be dependent most likely. Veterans, people experiencing homelessness. So I guess if you're just homeless, you can be on SNAP. That's interesting. Aged 24 or younger and were in foster care on their 18th birthday. So people who were dealt a bad hand in life, essentially, and are still trying to figure it out. So yeah, that is that. Moving on to the next. Trump's tariffs. We have a clip on this. Roll the clip.
That was the site outside of China's most recent bankrupt bank. the Yangshi Bank of China. And I wish I could say that this was the first bank that we've seen in China go completely insolvent, but it's not. Because as you can see right now, the banking sector for China is facing an all-out massive crisis where in just 1 week, 40 of their banks have completely disappeared. I have to repeat that. 40 banks have collapsed in 1 week in China. I mean, that is just total catastrophe for that entire economy. And I wish I could say that the Yangshi Bank was just a small local regional bank, but it's not. Because as you can see, they were the 44th biggest bank in all of China in 2023. Now the question becomes, what's the root cause of all of these banks collapsing at the same time? And as you can see that China's smaller banks were already struggling with bad loans and exposures to the ongoing property crisis. And it gets even crazier than that when you look at these numbers. Because as you can see, some 3,800 such troubled institutions exist. They have 55 trillion won, which is 7.5 trillion US dollars in assets, which is 13% of the total banking system that have been mismanaged and accruing vast amounts of bad loans. $7.5 trillion. Wow. And keep in mind that this isn't good for anything going on in the economy for China or the world as a whole. So how will this impact the United States banking system moving forward? The answer is it shouldn't impact it too much. And the reason why is because we have a checks and balances system that happens within our banks where every year there's government oversight that happens within these banks that gives them grades and tells them if they need to make corrections based on their risk management and how they're doing as far as how close to insolvency they are. So right now, I don't expect this to impact the United States too much, but seeing those numbers with the Bank of China, I'm expecting to see a lot more Chinese bank collapse.
So yes, that clip pretty much speaks for itself. I'm not going to get into my opinion on it because I haven't done enough research and we just haven't seen the true effects of these tariffs. This clip does give me some hope though that these tariffs may actually be what's really good for the country in the long run. If you see, we did just reach a 90-day deal with China who agreed to lower the tariffs on US products even more than what we're agreeing to lower during this 90-day period. So I think the media the media just hates our country. The media has been trying to paint Trump as getting just shellacked and not getting a great deal at all, but it seems with the numbers that this could be a decent deal, and these tariffs, if he can get these deals done quickly, could be great for the country. But keep in mind, historically, trade deals take months at a minimum to negotiate. So this 90-day pause, hopefully they can really get things moving. But don't be surprised if we have to really see the effects of these tariffs and if it just takes a little bit longer to actually get a deal done. But if he can get a deal with China, who's our biggest adversary, but also one of our bigger trade partners, if they can get it done quickly, and props to Trump. The art of the deal is indeed the art of the deal. But like I said, that is yet to be seen. We will see. We'll keep you updated on that. Moving on. So this is the clip that really hits more at home for me and other attorneys in the 19th Circuit. So this is a clip regarding Judge Brett Waronicki getting a DUI or allegedly being charged with a DUI, of course, and drug possession. So watch this.
Treasure Coast judge faces DUI charges tonight after his car was stopped in Martin County last night. 19th Judicial Circuit Court Judge Brett Waronicki was one of 3 people arrested in Jensen Beach. Our Treasure Coast Bureau reporter Rachel Perry learned investigators had been following him for weeks.
After getting a tip from someone that Judge Brett Waronicki was using illegal drugs, the Martin County Sheriff tells us detectives went undercover for roughly 3 weeks before arresting him just last night. Shortly before 11 Wednesday night, after doing several hours of surveillance on it, undercover agents with the Martin County Sheriff's Office pulled over this truck. The driver, we're told, is Brett Waronicki, a 19th Judicial Circuit Court judge in St. Lucie County. With him, Wendy DeTroya, a judicial assistant, and Christopher Greenman.
He was actually driving in the bicycle lane. So they conducted a traffic stop, realized right away that there was probably some intoxication with alcohol involved.
Detectives say they could smell alcohol on Waronicki's breath, his speech was slurred, and his eyes were bloodshot. He declined a field sobriety test, but detectives say they also found a small amount of cocaine in his wallet and at his home.
We found the facts. I'm proud of the work that our detectives did that puts them in a really odd scenario dealing with somebody in that type of position.
Court records show Waronicki was convicted of a DUI roughly 25 years ago, meaning he has a criminal record, but was still able to become a judge since his civil rights were restored after completing any probation and court payments. Sheriff Butensiek saying he's somewhat surprised by this case.
To have a sitting judge, of course, that's a position of extreme trust and power, and so to have someone at that level that is going around and acting like a college student, which is kind of how he was acting, is surprising to us, yes.
The two passengers, Detroya and Greenman, were arrested for possession of cocaine. Detectives say Waronicki had cocaine on him, but it was only residue and not enough for him to be charged with it, so he's facing a paraphernalia charge instead. WPBF 25 News reached out to the 19th Judicial Circuit for comment and are told, quote, all cases currently assigned to Circuit Judge Brett Waronicki will be re-noticed for hearing before a temporary duty judge when available, consistent with the Chief Judge's authority under court rules. We also reached out to Waronicki for comment but haven't heard back. Now, all three people in this case have been released from jail after posting bond. In Martin County, Rachel Perry, WPBF 25 News.
So yes, that's crazy. I literally have at least one case, if not more, with this judge, and now we have to have a temporary judge step in. So I'm assuming we've been trying to get a hearing scheduled, so hopefully we get that done soon, but that's crazy. I would like to hear in the comments what does everyone think about that. It really makes you think twice about, professionals, people in the legal industry, because people in the legal world, lawyers, doctors, just because you're a professional, just because you have a certain position, does not make you flawless and does not mean you can't develop habits, addictions, and things that can get you in a lot of trouble. So hopefully Judge Waronicki gets some help, or as we find out more about the situation, we will keep you apprised of it. But prayers to anyone affected by that, and let's just hope that case gets worked out in everyone's favor, everyone involved. So yeah, clip of the week. I'm going to end on a high note here. Clip of the week. This is a clip about Chivalry being dead, and it definitely speaks for itself. So let me hear what you guys think about this one. Roll it.
I'm standing on the train and look at all these men. What happened to giving up your seat for women? No man offered me a seat. Excuse me, are you going to get up?
What?
Are you going to get up?
Are you pregnant?
No.
Are you for equality?
Yes.
Then fuck off.
Shout the season.
Oh, that reaction there at the end really gets me. So yeah, chivalry is dead. Well, to the modern day feminists, this is what happens. You can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't treat men like crap and tell them that they don't deserve respect, but then think you're going to be entitled to a seat just because you're a female. It doesn't work that way. Use your common sense, use some logic. So let's get back to common sense societies. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and as always, tune in for your dose of excellence on a daily basis. Thanks.
For the latest in case updates, legal tips, news, and politics, make sure to like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram and our other socials, and above all, subscribe on YouTube to get your dose of excellence on a daily basis.